Are you looking to grow or even start your video production company? Well, today I want to share with you 7 things that are going to hold you back when growing a production company. Hey, what's going on? My name is Tim. I'm one of the co-founders here at Scary Good Marketing. We take the fear out of marketing and advertising your business using battle-tested strategies and creativity to bring you a better ROI. So you may be thinking, why is a marketing company talking about how to grow a video production company? Well, if you don't know, my very first company that I ever started was actually a video production company. And I started it back when I was a junior in high school, and I pretty much ran that company all the way through college, and that was the business that I had before we started our ad agency. So I had a lot of experience understanding and really just working in the video production world, because that's actually what my background is in film production and creative media. So I want to really share with you 7 things that I see a lot of video production companies doing that really hinder them from seeing the growth that they want. So starting off with number 1 is actually not knowing who your customer is. Now, I made this mistake whenever I first started my production company. I didn't really understand this concept because at the time, 1, being a junior in high school, you think you know everything that there is about the world, and you really don't. And 2, I didn't come from a business background. Nobody in my family has ever started a business, ran a business, did any of that stuff. Like I said, everybody mainly in my family, they're all work primarily for the government. So I was really the first one to go and kind of break out of that mold and wanting to start my own business. So the big thing is I didn't really understand who my customer was. I pretty much said, if you need video, I can do video, right? So I went after people that did weddings, I did company commercial things, I pretty much did all kinds of things. Anything that I could do, I pretty much did it. Now, that is not necessarily bad, but you're not going to see the results you want if you have that mindset, because it becomes very difficult for you to actually attract new customers. You're always going to have to go out and pitch and find and get those customers. You're never going to be able to attract customers. And once you get to the point where customers are coming to you, and you're not having to go out and like pitch people and knock on doors, do any of that stuff, it becomes a lot easier. And the only way that you get there is by understanding who your customer is. And you hear it a lot, is you want to niche down. Now, I have a little bit different outlook when it comes to niching down. One is I don't really like the word niche that much. I feel like everybody uses it all the time, and it has like 10,000 different meanings sometimes. What I like to think is, what industry do you want to serve, and then who are the customers within that industry? Because the thing is, if you niche down, way niche down, as you start growing, you will start hitting a little bit of a ceiling, and it becomes a little bit harder to grow. So I like to start with, what is the industry I want to serve? And realistically, if you say, okay, I want to serve corporations, right? Okay, so that's who we want to serve. Now, within that, what I like to think is, with your niche, who are the specific customers within that? Like, what are their demographics? Are you wanting to work with maybe Fortune 500 companies? Are you wanting to work with medium-sized businesses, medium to small-sized businesses, with 100 employees or more? What does that kind of look like? Right? And then within that, what is the specific product you want to sell? Not the service. Now, this is something that we're going to go into, and I've kind of covered in a few other videos, but really, what is the product and or service at this time that you want to offer? So, for instance, let's say that I want to go after companies that have 100+ employees. Then what I want to do is I want to create training videos. Maybe that's what I want to do. Maybe I want to do branded, like company videos, right? just pick one to start with. Now, you can build out your products and your services, but you really want to focus on what is the main thing, like, right? What is the main product, right? Just like if you look at companies like Coca-Cola, when they started, their main product was Coca-Cola. Now they have a whole product range and they can go and they can essentially take over an entire market if they want, but they started with one product, and that's what you want to do, is figure out what is that one thing you want to do, and that essentially is what your niche is, right? You want to serve corporations that are, 100 plus in size, and I want to do this one specific thing, which is training videos. Now, of course, I think that you can even niche down even more if you wanted to, like within that range of companies that are 100 plus size, like who specifically? Is it contracting companies? Is it nonprofit organizations? Like, who is it? I think that the more clarity you get there, the easier it becomes. But that's really what you want to work with, because like I said, as you go through that, you can start opening it up a little bit at a time, and then that's how you're able to continuously scale, because you can start broadening your market. But the thing is if you just niche all the way down right away and you don't have all of these pieces in place, it becomes harder to essentially widen out and understand how to successfully do that. So keep that in mind. So now number 2 is thinking that you are going to get more jobs based on the amount of gear that you have, or even the type of gear that you have. Now, this is something that I used to think all the time whenever I started, is that I needed to have every single piece of gear and needed to have, sliders and jibs and all these things. And I bought those things, and realistically, I almost never used them. The only thing that I ended up using the most was the camera. And back whenever I started my production company, like I said, this was like 2009. This was before DSLR was a thing. I was still shooting on DV tape. Like, that's how long ago it was. Shooting on tape, that was a thing. Realistically, all I really needed was that camera, a good mic, and maybe a couple of lights, and a good editing computer that can burn DVDs and Blu-rays, because that's pretty much what everybody wanted during that time when I started. So I had those things, but I ended up buying a bunch of other things that I probably didn't need. I probably should have taken that money and actually invested it in more important things like marketing, advertising, creating the overall look and feel of my brand. And that's really the big thing, is you don't need all the gear. You don't need any of that stuff. And the only way to understand what kind of gear you actually need is based on the client that you're going to have, right? Because the gear that I need to film a wedding is a lot different than what I need to shoot like a video like this, right? A talking head video, which is way different if I'm shooting a car commercial, right? But the thing is, you're not going to know what gear you need. You're not going to know what you should actually invest in unless you understand who your customer is. So now moving on to number 3 is you think that you're actually selling a service. Now, this was a hard concept for me to understand, but once I finally got it and realized this, I was able to start selling a lot more of essentially my service. But the reality is, you are not selling a service. You need to think of it more as a product, right? Because the thing is, with a service is fine, right? There's nothing wrong with a service, and you are technically classified as a service-based business. But what you want to do is take what you do and actually create it as a product, right? Because like, if you think about it, if you think about something like Netflix, it's technically a service, right? You pay a monthly fee for the service and you watch videos. But in reality, it's actually a product, right? If you look at the way that it is, everything is separated. You have like access to certain things, right? Like, it's more of a product. And the reason they do that is because it's easier to sell a product, and it's easier to sell something when it is repeatable, right? So that's what you want to do, is figure out Like I said, I want to sell training videos to, let's say, I don't know, some kind of corporation that we know has 100+ employees. Now the thing is, if you can productize the way that you do that service, it becomes easier because, one, you know exactly what equipment you need to do that service. You have maybe the scripts in place to help the organization come up with and frame the videos that you need. You understand the process that you need to go through and write, like, okay, if we're doing a screen capture type thing going through a specific software, these are the things that we know we need to cover, right? And when you can write out a service in specific steps like that, then you're able to continuously grow, because if I have essentially what this is called as an SOP, or a standard operating procedure for that product. So if I'm able to go now and productize this and have a framework, if I hire somebody on that can go and do that service now, and I can give them documentation and they understand exactly how to do it, and it is pretty much almost exactly the way that you do it, now is when you're going to be able to be scalable, because what you can do is you can hire somebody on and you can literally hand them documentation, you can go through it and you can work with them, and they have a crystal clear way of performing that service. And this is where you really get scalable, right? Because just like what I tell people, if I was to essentially snap my fingers and send you 100 customers today, it would kill your business, right? Because a lot of people think that, oh, well, my business isn't doing well because I don't have that many customers. But the same thing is true. If I sent you 100 people today and you had to go out and do 100 videos, and let's say you didn't know who your target market was, you didn't know what product or service you're selling, now you have to go and create 100 customized videos, customize everything, and come up with custom solutions for 100 businesses. And it becomes very overwhelming. It's very hard to scale, because even if you hire somebody and somebody has maybe a video that's similar and they didn't like the way that person did it versus that because they like those questions instead of the ones that they got, and this is where chaos and mayhem, and really it can kill your business. Like, a lot of people don't understand this, is you want to have these systems and processes in place, because when you're able to become repeatable is when you see the most success. And like I said, I mean, take somebody like McDonald's. Their whole business is based around automation and being consistent. And the only way that they were able to do that is understanding every single aspect, understanding, okay, we're selling a large soda. These are all of the steps that you take to create a large soda. And now, once we have those in place, can we automate it? Can we have literally a robot that goes, gets the cup, fills the thing, does all the stuff? And that's why they do like $40 billion a year, is because they understand that they have a product and that it needs to be systematized. And once it's systematized, then how do we automate it? And you need to do the exact same thing in your business as a video production company. And that's why, like I said, you really have to start looking at this as selling a product, not a service. Because, like I said, it becomes a lot more difficult to scale services, right? You can get more people, you can do that kind of stuff, but you still are going to have to think of it as a product. And I think that this is the thing that helped me the most in understanding that you need to have those SOPs. You need to, essentially, I should be able to give somebody documentation or have somebody watch a video and know exactly what processes they need to do. Right? They can take those paperworks and be like, okay, here are all the questions that I need to ask. These are all the questions that we ask every single time we go and meet with a client for, a talking head video. These are all the things. And there may be a little bit of small tweaks that you do to fit it to that business. But the thing is, you're not starting from scratch. You're not having to sit down, think about it, come up with all the things. You have a template and a framework that you're working off of. So now number 4 is another thing that I hear all the time, and this is what I truly believe, but it's that you are relying solely on referrals. Now, don't get me wrong, referrals are nice. A lot of times they're easy sales, and it's the way that you're able to essentially keep going and grow your business. But the thing is that you're just relying on referrals. And the reason why this is so detrimental is because, as you know, with referrals, some months you may get 5-6 referrals, and then the next 3 months you have no referrals at all, and you ride this roller coaster of having sales, not having sales, having sales, not having sales. And the thing is, referrals are really not that reliable, and you need to go and start setting up processes, doing certain things to be attracting customers all the time and not solely relying on referrals. And like I said, this was something that I did in the first couple of years, and it was very difficult because, like I said, sometimes you get referrals, sometimes you wouldn't. Months would go by, you didn't know what you wanted to do, how you would do stuff. And to me, I just look at referrals as like the cherry on top of the ice cream. Like, if it's not there, the ice cream is still delicious and everything is still working really, really well. I'm enjoying everything. But like I said, if it's there, it's just an added bonus. So that's really the big thing, is you need to understand that your business cannot survive off of referrals. And that's why, like, sometimes I do have to laugh when I talk to a business and they're like, oh, well, we're a 100% referral based business. And I'm like, good luck, because I can guarantee you, you are not going to last that long. And for some reason, people think that having a referral only business is like some kind of an achievement, when really, to me, I'm like, all you're really doing is nailing the nails in your coffin. And you're just literally just counting down the days until, you literally have nothing. If that's what you're relying on, you need to start figuring out other ways to start getting customers. And like I said, that's what we do here on this channel, is we teach you marketing and advertising strategies you can use to go out and get clients, to hopefully start attracting clients as well. So like I said, if you haven't already, hit the like button. Make sure to hit the like button on this video if you are getting valuable information thus far. So moving on to number 5 is actually not having upsells and downsells. Now, if you don't know what either of these, I'll briefly explain what they are. So an upsell is anything that you can offer to a potential client that will make the service, the product, whatever, better, right? It's things that you can add on, that a customer can add on to make it better, right? So an easy example is, let's say that you go to a burger place and you're looking at the menu and you get a regular burger, and then they have maybe different options where it's like, hey, do you want to add bacon for an extra $1? Do you want to add avocado for, an extra $2? Whatever it is, right? And all those things, all of those are just upsells, right? They're getting you to add things to your product that increase the value, and they make more money, right? So that's what an upsell is. So now a downsell is a little bit of the opposite. Let's say that somebody can't afford what you have to offer, maybe coming up with an alternative version or doing financing or whatever. All of those can be downsells. So the company that really capitalized on downselling and really, I think, was the master at it when they came out with it was Walmart and Layaway. Layaway is a form of a downsell, right? At the time, like I said, I don't know if Walmart still does Layaway, but when they came out with it, nobody else was doing what they were doing. And the thing is, when they offered Layaway, their sales, they blew up. It was crazy. So for those of you that maybe don't know what Layaway was or don't remember, essentially what it was is, let's say you go and you want to buy a product, right? So let's say that I wanted to buy this coffee cup, even though this isn't the best example, but let's say that this coffee cup was $100 and I really wanted it, but I didn't have $100 to buy this coffee cup. What I could do is I could go and I can put this on Layaway, where essentially I would take the big items that I wanted, like I said, maybe a TV or whatever, and I would go to the Layaway section and say, hey, I want to put these things on Layaway. Then they would go and they would tally up all the stuff, and essentially it was like in-house financing, where they would say, okay, if you paid this off within 12 months or whatever the terms were, right, then you could get it. And essentially what you would do is you would sign a contract saying, okay, I'm going to pay $50 a month for the next 12 months. And then at the end of 12 months, I can go and pick up the items that I actually wanted, right? So it was a way of in-house financing. And the reason this worked was because a lot of people, and even today, a lot of people have a negative connotation with getting credit cards, putting stuff on credit cards. Everybody always talks about credit card debt. So their way of essentially getting around that was saying, hey, we will give you the option to make payments on this. And as long as you do the payments within the time frame, like there's no extra cost involved with it, right? And it's essentially a form of credit, right? That's what it is. But the thing was, people felt better about it, and they felt like the business was helping them out in the time of a tough spot. So that's why it blew up, because a lot of times people are like, well, why don't they just put it on their credit card? It's the same thing. Because the thing is that there's a big negative connotation of putting stuff on a credit card. So they essentially just created their own version. That's why you see a lot of companies make their own credit cards. In my opinion, I don't think necessarily it's always as effective. I think that people are starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with credit cards again. But that's something to keep in mind, right? Like, you can offer financing on a specific project. You can offer financing, right? Like if I go to a company and I'm like, okay, we can do these training videos. It's going to be $25,000 to do. Then the company may be like, okay, well, we don't have $25,000 in our budget allocated to this, but we can probably move some money around, and if it helps like some of the stuff, we can definitely shift some money. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Then you just simply ask them, well, if we were able to finance this for you, would that be any help, right? Would that be able to help you guys out at all? More times than not, they're probably going to say yes, right? And then you just literally just ask them like, okay, like if we broke it up into like 3 payments or 4 payments of this, would that be a little bit easier for you guys as far as your budgets go? And then you kind of allocate that stuff. And essentially, like if you miss a payment or you do whatever, it's late, like there's this late fee, you work all that stuff out. That is a form of a downsell. And I see so many businesses, what they end up doing, especially production companies, is you'll say a price, and let's say you're like, oh, the video is going to be $5,000, and then the company's like, $5,000, I don't know if that's pretty expensive. And then what happens is you start backpedaling. And you're like, well, $5,000 is a lot of money, so, what if we decided to do it and we could do it for like $3,000, right? And now you're just spitting out whatever price because you need to get that client, you've got to get the contract, you want to make the money. And essentially now what you're doing is you're giving them the exact same thing, you're doing it at a lower price, and then they're like, okay, well, maybe $3,000 could work. And then you're like, okay, well, like if you can't do it, maybe we can, do this thing. And now what you're doing is you're literally talking yourself out of that sale, where like, you can just simply ask them like, okay, like $5,000 is a lot of money. If we were able to finance this for like to do like some kind of in-house financing or be able to like break it up into maybe payments, that wouldn't be helpful, would it? Now what you're doing is you're essentially still making that $5,000, but maybe it's over the course of 3 months, right? And that's fine. Or even if you do 5 months, right? Would you still be okay getting paid $1,000 every single month from one single client to help them pay for a product, for the service that you did? Yeah, of course you would, right? That's a little bit more consistent. And the nice thing is if you break it up into payments, you're probably less likely to go and just blow all of that money, right? So that's the thing is you want to use these things, right? The same thing with upsells, right? If you're working with a client, like I said, there's a lot of upsells that you can do. You can upsell maybe edits, different kinds of edits for social media. You can upsell teleprompters. You can upsell actors. You can upsell specific locations maybe. You can, like I said, I don't know, upsell them animated logos. You can upsell voiceover work. You can upsell transcriptions. There's so many things that you can do, right? Maybe you upsell them on doing like a live streamed version. I don't know, right? There's so many things out there, but that's what you want to do, is start figuring out these things that you can do, what you can offer, how you can kind of do those things, and get comfortable with them, because this is really where the money is made, is understanding how to upsell, downsell, and when it's appropriate to do, and how to effectively do it. So now moving on to number 6, this kind of goes a little bit in what I was talking about earlier, is you start backpedaling and you end up talking yourself out of a sale. Now, one of the most crucial things that you're going to have to learn is how to actually sell people. Now, there is the salesy, use Carmen way of doing it, and then there's what I just call the more tactful way of selling. And the big thing is you are going to have to learn how to sell. You're going to have to learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in situations, talking to people, doing that kind of stuff. Now, I can't go into like 10,000 ways. I mean, there's a lot of ways to sell. We do have videos here on the channel that go into different little sales techniques, that kind of stuff. But it's something that you're going to have to consistently learn how to do, because like I said, trust me, whenever I started, I would go in and I'd be like, there's really 2 times I think that you talk yourself out of a sale. One is when you are thinking about working with a client, or somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, we're interested in this thing. We'd like to talk about what, we can kind of do. Then, right then, you're probably talking yourself out of a sale, because you're like, okay, well, I've never worked with this client before, and, I am kind of struggling a little bit to kind of get some jobs. So, okay, if I was going to do this, I would like to charge maybe like $5,000, but what if they say no? So maybe I should just charge $3,000, but then, what if $3,000 is like way too much for them? You're already saying all these things before you've even talked to the client. So one, stop doing that, right? To me, I used to do this at the beginning all the time, and then you would end up being like, okay, I'm going to sell on $1,000, right? Because I feel comfortable there, and it's $1,000, and all the things that I talk to them about, it's going to be hard for them to say no, right? Trust me, I already know you guys are probably thinking the exact same thing, because like I said, I used to think this too, and I used to do this all the time. Now, instead of doing that, go in there, and literally my thing is I might be like, okay, how much do I want to actually get paid for this project? One is, if you productize your stuff, you know exactly how much it's going to cost you, what your profit margins are. Go in there and be like, okay, it's $5,000. That's it. Go through the entire thing, tell them the price. It's going to be $5,000, and don't say anything, regardless of how much it hurts and how painful it is for you to do whatever. You're going to see them kind of maybe be like, $5,000, right? They may say that. Don't say anything. Don't say anything, because you're going to want to. Now, if you're on a phone call, the best thing to do is just literally mute your phone, say whatever you want to say, and just keep it at that, right? Don't tell the client anything. Just go in there, tell them the price, don't say anything. They may have some pushback. It happens, but you will be surprised. I don't know how many times I have gone in, especially when I was doing video production, where I would go in and I'm like, okay, $5,000, this is the most I've ever asked for a project. I'll go in there and be like, okay, it's $5,000. And then they're just like, oh, $5,000, that's it? Okay, well, we can sign paperwork. What do we got to sign today and whatever? And I'm like, did you literally just tell me that, oh, it was only $5,000 and that was less than you were thinking? I could have asked for more money. You will be surprised that sometimes that happens. Some clients are just like, okay, $5,000, okay, do we write a check? Do you want us to put it on a card? How do you want it? You'll be surprised. There are some clients that are just like, oh, $5,000, okay, that's a lot less than I was thinking, but okay, if you say you can do it for $5,000, then good job for you. You'd be surprised, because that's the thing. And to be honest, there are some clients that in the beginning, when I went and I was like, okay, well, it was we could do it for $5,000, but because of this, that, whatever, we can do it for $1,500. Some of them end up saying no, and I ask them why. They're like, well, to be honest, whenever you said $5,000 is really not that much for us, and we were a little bit, we ended up not going with you because you talked yourself down all the way to $1,500, and we just felt that we weren't going to get a quality product at $1,500 because you weren't even confident enough to sell us at $5,000. So we just don't think that you're going to be confident enough to actually deliver on the project. And we would much rather work with somebody that, we'd much rather pay somebody more money that's more confident to actually deliver on this thing. So just keep that in mind. These are all things that I've gone through. These are all things that happened when I was running my production company. And that's really what you need to keep in mind is don't talk yourself out of the sale. Now, like I said, it'll happen. The only way that you are going to get better at this is you have to practice it, and you need to be conscious of it and realize, okay, I'm going to say the price, no matter how terrifying it is, say the price, don't say anything else, wait for them to say something. And if they say, well, the price is a little high, don't start backpedaling into a lower price. Figure out, how can I downsell them? Be like, okay, $5,000 is a little bit too much. What do you feel comfortable, at what price do you feel comfortable moving forward? If they say, well, $3,000, and I'd say, okay, so at $3,000, I know that you said that the thing that you really liked was maybe that you are going to be able to have some actors so that you don't have to worry about being on camera, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Well, the thing is, at $3,000, we just can't hire any actors. So would you be okay not having actors on this project to bring the price down to $3,000? Right? Do you see what I'm doing there? I'm essentially downselling them. I'm taking maybe the thing that they really liked about the project, and can we get rid of that, right? Can we make it lower? You said, that you wanted to maybe have 3 locations. Well, at $3,000, we're really maybe only going to be able to do 1 location. Would you be okay just at 1 location? And if they're okay with that, then great. That's less work for you to do, and you're still making a $3,000 sale instead of making maybe a $1,500 sale because you backed yourself all the way down there, right? So keep those things in mind. There's always ways to downsell people. There's always ways. And my thing is I'm like, there's 2 ways to downsell. You either take things away that they really like, or you split it up into a payment option. Those are the 2 best downsells that you can have. Or the thing is, if they're thinking that they're going to get something for $100, then just don't work with them, right? There has to be a point where, that you can't go any lower than that. And I tell people, look, we can't go any lower than this. If it's not going to work for you, maybe we have a little course on how to shoot your own videos for your business. And, that is $500. It'll teach you how to shoot your own videos. Now, of course, they're not going to be at the quality that we can produce videos, but they'll definitely be a lot better quality than what you're doing now. Is that something you're interested in? No? Then I'd be like, okay, sorry, we can't, there's nothing that we have, and we're not going to be able to help you. That's just what it is. You may be able to hire some, Joe Smo down the road to come and do it, but I can guarantee you it's not going to be what you're wanting. It's just not going to be there. So that's what you want to do. I wish you the best of luck, and maybe we can work together in the future, right? And that's totally okay. Sometimes you got to walk away. And now finally, number 7 is that you don't advertise, or you don't think you need to advertise. Now, this is a big thing, right? It's kind of funny because whenever I look back, whenever I was like, oh, I don't need to advertise, I don't need, whatever. It's funny because now I'm in advertising, because once I really learned how critical and important and how really marketing and advertising can drastically change your business, I got into advertising because I loved it so much. And it's funny because I'll talk to people, and like I said, they think that posting on social media is an advertising strategy. They think that getting referrals is an advertising strategy. And I'm sorry to say that is not an advertising strategy. Posting on your social media is not really advertising. I would consider that more brand building, and just building out content and potentially attracting some customers, but it's not advertising. In my opinion, advertising is when you take your money and actually pay to put something in front of somebody. That could be content, that can be an ad, that can be an offer, that can be a brand building campaign. It doesn't matter. But if you are spending money to essentially get some kind of content, some kind of message in front of somebody, that is advertising. Like I said, not like posting on your Instagram and putting 10,000 hashtags, that's not advertising, right? Just like this video here on YouTube, this is not advertising. I do not consider this advertising. I consider this more brand building, more, having people understand what we know, helping people. That's more of what this is. This is not an advertisement, right? Even if I was to sell you something here at the end, it's still not an advertisement, right? Yes, people may see it, they may go and they may do whatever, take the action, but I don't consider that advertising. Like I said, really advertising is whenever I spend money on something, right? So like if I took this video and I ran it as a search-based YouTube ad, that is an ad, right? If I spend money on it and essentially to help promote it, to help get it out there to more people outside of my network, that is an ad. So that's the way that I like to think about it. So you really need to figure out how you're going to spend money, what you're going to spend money on when it comes to advertising, right? Like I said, the other thing that I can consider an ad is a business card, right? The uniform that you wear could be an advertisement. If you have a production van and you wrap it with your information and you drive down the street, that can be an ad, right? Because you spent money on it and it's going out there and it's conveying a message, right? So that's kind of how I think about it. Now, that's really the big thing that you want to think about. How can you go out and advertise? And I just want to kind of leave this little bit here because I was talking with somebody. We kind of did some consulting work. They were asking us about their website. They were asking about how they can start attracting people, and they were in the fitness niche, right? They want to work with people in the fitness niche and really people that are like more trainers and that kind of stuff, not people looking to get fit, right? So their niche is more trainers, and they want to kind of do more content and help trainers like do video content, that kind of stuff. So one of the things that they asked was like, okay, like how, like right now, a lot of the way that I'm getting my clients is through word of mouth, referrals, that kind of stuff. But how can I, essentially, what can I do to kind of make that better? Like what's a potential ad? What's a potential strategy that I can do to maybe capitalize a little bit more on these referrals? And I kind of want to touch on this because we talked about referrals. So what I told him is I was like, okay, well, here's the thing. Don't spend money on business cards. Don't do any of that because your market does not care about business cards. And to be honest, I don't think that business cards are the best strategy. They are a strategy and they do work sometimes, but you need to figure out something a little bit better, right? Because everybody has business cards. And the thing is, I don't know about you, but anytime that I get a business card, what ends up happening is I get a business card, even if I like that business card, it ends up going on a pile on my desk. I maybe look at it once or twice, and then I end up throwing those dang things away and never even contacting the person or never doing whatever. It's not an important part of my life, right? So what I told them to think about is, okay, if you have personal trainers, what is an integral part of that identity, right? Being a personal trainer. Well, they like working out. Okay, if they really like working out, what is something that you can give them that is a piece of marketing material that will always remind them and have a way to essentially get a referral? So I said, okay, why don't you get water bottles, like good, like, you know, like even if you got Yeti water bottles, right? They're going to cost you a bit more money, but the thing is, get Yeti water bottles and have your brand on there with maybe a link to your website, right? Because the thing is, I guarantee you, if you give somebody that goes to the gym, works out, they need a water bottle, and if it's a good quality water bottle, not something cheap, they're going to use it every single day that they go to the gym. And when they go and they talk to their friends about, hey, you know, I hired this really cool video production company and they do these types of videos and they do this stuff, like, here's their brand, here's where you can go and get, you know, like, you check them out here, or, you know, whatever, scan this QR code and, you know, you can do whatever. That is a lot more organic. That is a way better strategy, a marketing strategy. And yes, it does cost you money, but I guarantee you, you're going to see way better results from that than giving somebody a business card, right? Because if you got a Yeti mug or a Yeti water bottle, do you think that they're going to throw that away like they would throw away a business card? The simple answer is no. They're going to use it every single time. And every single time that they go to drink water, every single time that they fill it up, every single time they, you know, wash it out, whose brand, whose company are they seeing time and time again? That's really where you want to be. And like I said, this is just one simple little strategy. There's hundreds of thousands of different strategies out there. So keep that in mind. Now, just like always, now keep that in mind. So if you thought that this last tip was super helpful and you made it all the way to the end, because I can guarantee you there's a bunch of other video production companies that came here, watched the first two things, and then left and didn't even make it to this last tip. So if you thought that this last tip was really, really helpful, really, really insightful, make sure to hit the like button. And I actually want to invite you to check out the Scary Good Business Advantage. Now, this is a program, this is a system that we've been designing, developing, and wanting to kind of get out to help you grow your business. Now, essentially, like I said, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it. Pretty much, like I said, this last marketing strategy that we have, if you would like to get more strategies like this, go check out the Scary Good Business Advantage. I left a link in the description below. It's going to tell you all about it. If you're not interested in learning more about marketing and advertising your business, your video production company, that's totally fine. You can go watch a video talking about lenses, cameras, all that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love those videos too. You can go watch one of those, and that's totally fine. Like I said, I have no problem with that. So, but if you do want to start taking your video production seriously, like I said, this is not just for video production companies, so don't think that it's only video production companies that are in the Business Advantage. Like I said, it's really for anybody that wants to start upping their game, start understanding marketing and advertising a lot better, and really have somebody to show them how to set up and run these strategies. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to check the link in the description below. But other than that, until next time, I wish you the best of luck with your production company, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.